Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Hess. Today we're going to build a gallery that's fit for mobile in Power Apps. And this is based on a question that I received from one of you. Alright, so this question is from JR Poole, and he wanted to ask, how was I able to get that original horizontal container and gallery elements created? Is there a video on how I set that up in this scenario? How do you do the horizontal gallery elements and exist in the container with individual other containers per gallery item? Is it a manual process? And for the way that I do it, it is manual. And let's get into it. Let's show what Microsoft gives us out of the box. All right, so here we are on a blank Power App. It's a blank Power App, and we're going to go to a new screen. And you can see here that Microsoft does have a new header and gallery look. But honestly, in my opinion, I don't like it. I do like the header and table, but the header and gallery, I think it's too big and bulky. Like, I know it looks great, but what happens if you have, 100 rows and then you can only show 6 items at a time? Then you have to build all this filter and stuff. Like, I like to be able to see it like Excel, like SharePoint. That's me, I'm biased. That's how I like to see it. So you can use this out of the box template that Microsoft has. If you come in here and do settings and display, and you turn off the scale to fit, and then you look at it in a phone view, right? It is going to show up, but in my opinion, I just don't like this. I'm sorry, Microsoft, but I like the SharePoint row list view. That's how I want to interact with my data normally, instead of large, big, bulky items. I'm not going to create a Power App to buy things. That's just not something I would do. I don't know. Maybe that's something you do, but this is how I create a new gallery. All right, so I'm going to delete that screen. And new screen. And the screen, the template that I do like is this split screen. So I like this split screen because then I can have a right side and a left side. And now I'm actually putting the navigation on the right side. So I like to put my navigation here on the right side. So I'm going to go to Screen Container 2. And I'm going to turn off the wrap. So when we turn off the wrap, you can see it kind of goes side by side. And I've done this a few times, but I'm just going to walk through it over and over again. So on the right side, on the right container, I'm going to lower the minimum width to maybe 50. And so you can see now we have more space here, but this gap is too large for me. And so I'll just lower the gap to maybe about 4. And so the padding is still a little large too. So you can see right above my head, up here, right here, you can see the padding. It's a little too large. Like, I understand, Microsoft, you like the padding, but I like it a little bit. But now this gives me more real estate. Have you ever went shopping for a house or an apartment and there's wasted space? That's the way I see these apps, right? So you have wasted space, and I don't like wasted space. I do like the gap there, so a small gap. And now we have a sidebar for our navigation. But I think it's still a little too big. On the right side, instead of fill portions 1 of 2, I'm going to change the left side, actually, the left container. I'm going to increase the fill portions. Increase the fill portions to maybe 6 to kind of, make this side take up a lot more space. And you can see now this side is a lot smaller. Maybe we want this to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to increase the minimum width. I'm going to go to 75. So now the minimum width is a little bit bigger. This is where our buttons are. And will our thumb be big enough to press this? And let me show you another trick that I like to do. This is a pro tip. If you go online and you search in UI UX design, there's a thumb friendly zone. So in order for me to visualize these thumb friendly zone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my screen 3. Now this may be your screen 2. And I am going to go and insert this image that I found online. Now you can search, Google and find the image yourself online. There's lots of websites out there with thumb friendly zone. And I'm going to stretch it, make sure it's on stretch. And now for my screen containers, for the color, I'm going to change it to transparent, the main one. And the left side container, I'm going to change it to transparent, but not just fully transparent. I'm going to pull it up to white a little bit and then make it just barely transparent. So it looks like I'm on an alpha of 80. So I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. I'm going to change the color to a white, and then I'm going to say the alpha is about 80. So now when I press play, I can see that thumb-friendly zone. So I can see, okay, this top left part for right-handed users is a rough press, right? And there's people who spend, years learning this stuff. So I'm just going to trust them on what the thumb-friendly zones are. And you can see in the bottom right, maybe we don't want a button down here or in the yellow. Sometimes I still put buttons right here in the top right. That's kind of where my navigation starts. But this is a really good, useful pro tip to do when you're designing apps. So you can change it, to a tablet if you wanted to. A tablet, and you can still see those thumb-friendly zones. And you can see this right side actually grew. It grew a large bit, but I'm still okay. I'm okay with the yellow, but the red, I try not to put filters or buttons or button clicks up there in the red. Okay, now I'm going to do something temporarily, and I feel like we're building a template. You may want to make this a template so you can just load it up every time and then do a save as. All right, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a temporary button. So I'm going to create a temporary button right here, a new button, and this button is going to create my right side navigation. I'm just going to go to the button. I'm going to say on select, and I'm going to create a collection. We can make this a template. It'll be really neat. I'm going to say clear collect. And what are we going to collect? We're going to collect my navigation. So collection nav. And this navigation is going to be built off a table. So we're going to create a table. There could be many rows in our navigation. And it's going to have a title, and it'll have home, and then it'll also have an icon. And we'll say this is also home. And then we'll have a screen. So it goes to screen one. And so that is our first row in our table. We're going to do the same thing. And this will be gallery. And screen 3. And actually, need another parentheses. The icon, I don't remember the icon off the top of my head. We're going to take a look in here. There's a gallery icon, apps list. I like that one. Apps list. Apps list. Okay, now we're going to create a gallery on the right side here. On the right side navigation, we're going to create a vertical gallery. And this vertical gallery is going to have nothing in it. It's going to be blank. And we want to make sure it resizes itself and stays in its parent, which is of the gallery, the parent is the right container 1. We want to make sure that it stays in its parent. Okay, so I just clicked stretch. So I stretched it to the size of its parent. If you go to width, you could probably do, parent.width, and that would help. Now in this first row right here, which is pretty large, we're going to insert a button. I insert another button. And I want this button to take up all the space where it's at. So for the gallery right here, I'm going to say the height is 200. Maybe too big. Let's go 125. Maybe a little bigger, 150, right in the middle where I wanted it. All right, so the height of the buttons, the template height. So this is actually the template height. You maybe don't notice that yet, but that's actually the template height is 150. So for my button, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, the height is equal to parent.template height. So that's the entire height of the row in the gallery. And the width is parent.template width. So now the button takes up all the space. We want to make sure that the gallery also takes up the entire space. So for the gallery 2, we're going to say flexible height. So it takes up all the space. It looks like we messed up our template height. So I'm just going to go to gallery 2, the template size, and I am going to change this number right here, the height, to 100. There we go. So now we're kind of better. We can see, things are fitting in there correctly. Now for the gallery, our items property is going to be our collection col nav, which we haven't clicked the button yet. So we click the button. We have 2 rows. The button, the text, so we can actually, this is a little shortcut, is you can actually click text here and it'll fix the top bar up here. And we can say this is this item dot title. And icon, we can click here, this item dot icon. And this item, this is pulling from our collection. So this item is actually based off of here, icon. On the on select, on the button click, I want to navigate to screen. Oh, actually, this item dot screen on a fade. So now it's using the variable in our table to create the navigation. So if we click on gallery, home, you can see we went back to home because actually our screen 1 has nothing on it. So you can see that we have that here. Now I can just take this screen, I can duplicate it. So then now this I'm going to delete screen 1, rename screen 1. Now you're going to want to rename all this stuff for, to make things easier for you. Why is it not fitting in there correctly? It looks like the minimum width is raised pretty high. So there we go. So now we have our buttons. We have gallery, home. So we have gallery and home. Now the final thing is our buttons. I only want to show the icon when we are in a template or larger canvas app, not when we're on phone. So layout, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say if screen3.size is equal to 1, then icon only. And I've been over this a ton of times, else it's icon before. So now when we click in here, we see only the icon. I'd like the icon to be bigger. So in order to make the icon bigger, I increase the font size. So maybe the font size is 25. And same on this one, the font size is 25. Okay, so now we have our right side navigation. We are in the yellow and then some in the green. Actually, maybe one of the buttons that you don't click the most that you would put at the top. Maybe this is like a close or something. Maybe it's home. Maybe that's a button that you don't click much, is the home button. I want to create the gallery. So this is the main point of this video, was to create the gallery on this page. So I'm going to delete this text for now. And we're going to insert a vertical gallery. Now this vertical gallery, I'm fine with the way it's set up right here. This is where it becomes opinion and how I like to do things. And maybe as soon as you learn how I like to do it, then you can learn and strategize a new way how you like to do it. And feel free to share yours if you want to. I like to go to title, or maybe title subtitles sometimes works too. I really don't like the image in there. I feel like that takes up too much space. Once again, that's the real estate in our app. And the gallery, I'm going to make it aligned to container and also flexible height. So we've, made it stretch to the parent. So it now stretches to the parent. I also don't like this bar that Microsoft decided to put in here at some point. I don't like the blue bar. I don't like the white bar. And I also don't like the arrow. The screen container, left container. And I'm going to insert a new horizontal container. And this container is here at the bottom, but I want it to be a lot smaller. So what I like to do is I take my gallery here, and the fill portions I say is 6, a lot bigger. And then down here, I'm going to insert a button. So this is where I would insert a button. I would center it. I'd probably pull it all the way over. All right. And then for the button, I'd probably pull it off the edge just a little bit. So the container, I'll have a padding of, let's go 8. just to pull it off the edge a little bit. And don't worry about the look of these containers right now. You see this container, you see this container. While we're developing, we're gonna let the containers be visible. At the end, I'm gonna take the container, I'm gonna make it completely transparent. So you're not even gonna see the containers in there. And an extra little tip in there is all the containers come with a shadow. So let's see, the container, this drop shadow, if you change it to none, it kind of gets rid of those lines that you might see in there. So now our containers there, but while we're developing, I keep my containers there. All right, the next thing I do that most people may not realize is actually in the left container one, I insert another vertical gallery. And this vertical gallery gets pulled up to the top. So I'm going to press Control and the square bracket, pull it up, and this gallery is going to fill portions 1 of 8 minimum height. This is, I'm going to say 50. You'll make it a lot smaller, and once again, it's going to be just the title. And it looks like it changed my height again. So let's see, flexible height, minimum height 50. And stay with me here. I'm going to come to the gallery. I'm going to delete the rectangle. I'm going to delete the separator, the next arrow, and the title. So literally I just have my gallery here, the items property. I'm going to put a 1 in there just to kind of give me 1 row of items. All right, now that we have my gallery in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert another container. And I know this is repetitive, but this is where you can save it as a template. So now it's going to be a horizontal container because I want my rows to go across here. And this horizontal container, the width is going to be parent.width. And the height is going to be parent.height. And that might actually be template height, and it is. So template height. There we go. All right, so we have a new container here. I'll call this one horizontal. All right, so that's a horizontal container. Inside the container, I'm going to put my fields. So text, and this field is going to take up the entire space. So I'm actually going to click on horizontal container. I'm going to say take up your, stretch the space, justify, stretch the space also. Now this text is going to say title. And we're going to center it. So I want it off that edge, or sometimes I actually put in a little padding. So let's see, on this one, just on the first one, I put in a padding of about 8, or you can just center it like that. Okay, so we have title. I'm just going to copy paste. So copy, paste, 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 paste. I'm just Control V, Control V, Control V. So I have about 5 fields. So we have title, description, owner, I don't know, created, and then created by. And so now for each of these fields, I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to turn on flexible width. Flexible width, boom, they all take up that amount of space. So now I have those fields in there. Now I'm going to do the same thing on my gallery down below. So I need a horizontal container. It's good, repetition is good. Horizontal container. And the width is going to be parent.width. And the height is going to be parent.template height. And you could probably, mix match these if you want, but parent.template height. And we need to pull it over a little bit. So actually the X value is 0. Okay, and now these title, subtitle, I'm going to take those out. So actually, now that I've deleted those 2 fields, I'm just going to copy, have Control C, copy these, and put them in my container down here. All right, so now we've created that. And I want the template height to actually stretch. Okay, and all of these should have flexible width on. Looks good. And if we wanted one bigger, we could say, oh, title should, take up more space. Title should take up more space. Now let's check out the mobile. It's not going to be right, most likely. So it looks, actually, it doesn't look that bad. It's looking pretty good. So, and the other thing is, now that we're in containers, we can hide pieces based on, whether or not they should be visible. So things like created, we can say if screen 3.size is equal to 1, then false, else true. Else true. All right, so I'll do the same thing on created by, because this field is not very important to me. When you're in a smaller screen, you get less fields. That's just how it happens. So same thing. Play. Okay, so we have title, description. It looks like they're not fitting in there right. We need to do the same thing at the top. So visible here. Created by. Visible here. So now we have a nice gallery. And to add to this just a little bit, maybe this top container, the height is a little too big. So let's change the height to, let's go to 40. There we go. I like that a lot better. So 40, the minimum height will become 40. The template size will become 40. So now we have a little bit of a gap in here. And, sometimes you just got to, play around with this as you go with it. So I'm just going to say fill portions is 15. There we go. I like that. Okay, so now we have our title bar up here. Our data is going to be below. We have a large button. Maybe it's too big. Maybe it's not. If we go to the canvas size, it resizes itself. The data. So the actual data, let's put in some actual data. So the items property of our gallery. So let's just put some data in here. And this is a good test, a good learning exercise is, once again, we don't have to actually connect to anything. We could create a collection. We can create a table. So we can say table. Let's see here. Table is title, test title. Well, we need our double quotes. Test title. Description is test description. Then we have owner, test owner, created. We can put in a date. We could, however we want to do it. Created by, test owner, or test created by. We now have a table. We can see that it has not lined up yet. What we need to do is, instead of text here, we say this item dot title. And here, this item dot description. This item dot owner. And this one, the text is this item dot created. And finally, created by. Okay, so now let's just double check the phone, how it looks in here. And you can see it is resizing itself. It's fitting in there pretty nicely. So now imagine we had more rows in our table, or we connected this to a data source. That's what I always try and say is, look, it doesn't matter what your data source is right now. That's not important. So we can put in a few rows. Then let's have it format for us so we can see that better. And then let's put in one more in here, like a better test. So we can say something, title, job complete, job complete. We did it. test owner, Andrew Hess. We'll change the date to 10/1/2024, created by Andrew Hess. So now we have our table. We can see we have 3 rows in there. 3 rows in there. We have our test title, our job complete. We did it. We can see it in there. And then, based on that beginning Power App, all I did was add since we have this in a container, it was super easy to add a checkbox, right? So I just added a checkbox, and then I press Control with the square bracket, and I can slide it over, and everything resizes itself. It's really nice. And so the width is 40. That's kind of the great thing about it. There's no label behind it. So now, once again, everything's resized itself. We could probably work on owner and make that fit in there. And so I would just do the same thing. I'd make a blank space for the checkbox. So I add another text. I'd pull it over all the way to the right. All the way to the left, I mean. I'd make the width 40, remove the text. So then once again, it kind of all lines up again. And, you could work on, making this bigger, maybe. So the rows right here, let's just double check the template container, or the gallery actually. The template size is 40. Now, based on your data and what you want to see on the phone view, you can change some of these to red, yellow, greens, to graphics, to icons. For the owner field, I'm just going to drop the minimum width. So now we're in phone view. We can see everything. We have a nice checkbox. So for the final touches, what you probably want to do is go to your gallery, this gallery down here, and the template fill. The template fill I like to change to, if this item that is selected, then give it a color. Give it a slight color, so 0.1, maybe a gray, or maybe you want a pink, a red. How about 200? So now when you select an item, you can see your selection. If you made it to the end of this video, I am going to upload this to GitHub. So next week, I probably will not have a video. I'll be at the Power Platform Conference. Hope to see you there. My name is Andrew Hess, and I'll see you then.